cold. You know, Canadian bus transit is really something else. I'm always constantly in a state of wondering if the road conditions are just that deplorable, or if every single employed bus driver is just so homicidally suicidal that they just are subtly attempting to induce a crash and kill everyone on board. So, another interesting find in regards to my abilities of editing with this new device. Apparently, in regards to storage and the editing app I now have, I can record at maximum with the app, or being able to export footage with the app that's compiled, at most an hour and 35 minutes. At least that's the maximum I've been able to push it so far. So, whatever I said I would explain later on in the last video, well, I'll try to do it here. Okay, so enough dilly-dallying. Back in Old Town, and I'm just going to the spots that I wanted to go to in the last video that I didn't get to doing. So, oh, and if you're wondering why a certain clip, in regards to, in the last video, the clip where I explained why I'm now doing this with the camera for simplifying the editorial process and storage. If you're wondering why it seems so out of place where it was in the video, that's because it was. Oblivious me, I put it in the wrong spot when I was compiling the footage. I hit the wrong thing because I had to trim down in the gallery app just a portion of the already existing an already existing other clip, and in the editing app it scrambled everything around. So, and I didn't catch it when I was compiling it because I was a little, admittedly, impatient. Shouldn't have been. But alright. So, in order to save on time, I'm going to also, in that regard, for having the mark of only pretty much an hour and a half to record if I'm going to actually export and compile footage with this app, I'm going to keep the sections that I do whilst pausing the actual footage, instead of just stopping it, to maybe 10 minutes long each, or try to. So, let's get back up top here. I despise these things. I really do. I really fucking hate these things. Yeah, don't silently laugh at me. I see you I see you jiggling up there. They're mocking me. Okay. Oh, and for those of you saying, Cam, why aren't you speaking Quebecois French, or why aren't you doing a Quebecian accent? I thought you were switching you were gonna code switch every video. Or try and do that. Yeah, not for this one. Whatever. I didn't intend this to be a separate part, so yeah. Just leave it at that. Yeah, enough. I'll do that in the final part after this. Alright. So, it's a very beautiful evening right now. It's nice, crisp, and cool. It's not frigid. It's not boiling heat wave. It's a rather nice temperature. And as typical, this area of the city is bustling with easily impressed cognitive zombies. I'm sorry. Well, I'm not sorry. I know that sounded harsh. But take the humor for what it is. And the star pupil building itself. Okay, here, what I said in the last video, for knowing the visual distortion construction of it, this really messes with my eyes in movement right here. Oh yeah, and yes, I will address this. Just give me a bit. Right here. Okay. I'll do it once again to try and demonstrate. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch the last video towards the end. Oh yeah, here it's real good. It's real good to see it. Look, it doesn't... Yeah. Visually, it's not getting any closer. At all. It's staying in place. The upper portions. Not the ones that are lower to the ground here. Not these structures. They're actually moving with my pupil's gaze, but not Frontenac. No siree. More stupid statues. I don't know what event this is.
Sorry guys, finish the show anyway. Anyway, let's go. Warm up. Let's shoot, man.
Okay, here's somewhat I get. No, not even here. Slightly the illusion breaks. Because there's no way once you actually focus on the thing for long enough periods of time and your eyes become adjusted to its illogical structuring, it starts picking up on its inconsistencies in size compared to where, in terms of height, it should be off of the ground. Like here. This column is not that high up. You can tell that right here. from farther away, it looks like it is. Wow. Now this is something I'd rather focus my attention on. This is actually beautiful in some regard, despite all of, yes, as I've said before, the atrocities that are clouding one's field of view. Still some beauty in it all. You know, in regards to my theoretical work in relation to what I've mentioned and showcased here and there on the channel of pseudo-segregation methods of the ultra-rich to divide class, racial, sexual, religious, etc. communities. It's really disturbing. For specifically, not just for the obvious of subtle modern methods of division, physical division of communities, but when you've traveled and traversed the amount of places that I have, specifically large cityscapes, you begin to become very much aware of the fact that entire large municipalities, at least large in regards to the population of whatever specific nation or region of that nation, that specifically for, say, large cultural centers, I've come to learn that the neighboring cities bordering them municipally have so clearly only been further developed and built up in the modern day and given a real estate market of any kind for those of lower income to take refuge and have some amount of living space in said cities, they only have come to be like that because initially, earlier on in the last century, the area was a manufacturing settlement of some kind. And workers, members of the working class, were brought there for living by the corporations that manufactured in the area. And then with, well, wanting in some regard to have more, for major mass transportation of products went underway across the world, company executives, those of higher positions in corporations, well, they wanted to be closer to their privatized treasures. So they built spaces for their upper class communities solely to be within the region. But as work grew and demand from the working class for their families to be moved closer to them where they were stationed, well, that's where the tailored corporate developments for housing came in. And that's how modern day major neighboring cities to other larger cities that have more touristic presences, features, have come about to be. Case in point, the Viz Quebec, or Laval, Quebec, in regards to Montreal. In regards to my own Canadian home city, Mississauga, Ontario. Comparing it to Toronto and Oshawa, Ontario. In regards to right here, in terms of that build-up, like I demonstrated in the Exploring the Viz series, in regards to the layout of Old Town the Viz that you can see from across the river here, it's so clearly only built up as it is for the tourists of Old Town Quebec City to have something to look at across the river. Sick. But anyway, let's have a little bit of fun. Got this crepe cone from work. I just went there quick to eat, and, well, instead of throwing it just then and there, the recycling, I figured, hey, you know what, why don't I try and make a paper plane out of it? A very structurally damaged paper plane that I don't doubt is aerodynamically a horrible design idea, but, well, let's see if the wind conditions are right to take it. Actually, what way? No. Here. Alright. Woo. Well. try it again. Wee. Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, I don't have a future career in aerospace engineering. Okay, let me try it from here. Maybe this will be better. No, it's lopsided. Ah! Oh, okay, that actually was better. Okay, now what about like this? Let's see. Ah! Nope. Crash landing. Oh. Wonder if I just... Okay. If I just let the wind take it. It's the right conditions. Oh, you're dying down right now? Come on. Give me a good gust. Oh. Okay. Oh. Yeah. If I just move a bit faster, maybe. Ah. Yeah, well. Okay. Now's... Okay, this one will go exactly as planned. I know it. Okay. You saw nothing? Look at that! It's flying on its own, completely, with no external help. Oh, look at that! Look at that turn with the wind! Ooh. Ooh, and now it's coming in for a landing. Oh, you didn't see anything. Ooh. You did well, plane. At least it was fun for me. But definitely never entrust me with piloting an aircraft. Ever. Well, there's something that you truly do not see every day. Is that a porcupine? Yeah, that's a porcupine. What? Oh. You're just on a little adventure of your own. All right. Big porcupine just wandering through the big city. Now, nothing much interesting to see compared to your natural environment, big fella. But, well, yeah, that was a pleasant little encounter. Alright. And another stray cat as well. You couldn't really see them, because they ducked into the shrubs before I could, well, unpause it. But yeah. It's both the wildlife and the human beings are just trying to enjoy the beautiful afternoon. Very nice. So this mountain range all along here that surrounds the entire northern portion, well, north and western portion of the city, is the Laurentian mountain range. It's the biggest stretch of, well, mountainous region in, I believe, well, not just Quebec, it might be the Canadian Shield as well, geographically. And then off to the west here, just, well, further behind the Laurentians, is the northernmost portion in Quebec of the Appalachian mountain range. Can't really see them from here. Or maybe you can see a bit. Kind of. Back a ways. It extends all the way around to the North Shore, and going towards the Gaspé coast, and then onto the island of Newfoundland. Once I leave the city, I'll be heading off into or alongside the Laurentian range. So I'm sure there'll be much beauty in that. Be a more pleasant sight than, well, any amount of, well, the developments of Les Belles Provinces.
It's like
So, regarding the mega corporate restaurant locations that, well, the one, Subway, I displayed in this video, and the McDonald's location and the St. Hubert location displayed in the last video, why was I focusing specifically on, well, those branches of those corporations? Well, because if you will have noticed, for those of you who are familiar with said companies, the exterior leasing space designs were different compared to their, well, average. They're commonly constructed, well, external aesthetic. Namely, incorporating more older style French architecture into their design. Now, why is that? Or why was that done? As far as I'm concerned, very clearly because of trying to appeal to local residents as if it is for, well, as if their interests are for communal economic growth and thus preservation of amounts of Quebecois heritage, yada yada yada, but as well as I don't doubt for foreign tourists who may not be as familiar with the enterprise chains, as a method of basically just tricking them into thinking that those companies are smaller businesses, or that because of the design, well, they give off the look of just a local restaurateur establishment that has opened up in the area, doing a very pathetic job at so, for any amount of, well, it being an attempt at that. So yeah, that's why. It's funny. Saint Jean Baptiste was the first portion of the downtown area when I originally got here in May that I, well, for my first explorations of the area that I spent my time in, mainly taking in the amounts of older Western European architecture preserved along the road. What amounts that are, well, not completely crumbling. Well, it just, I don't know, it feels quite somber. In fact, I usually feel like this. Since being on my travels, I've said this. I said this in Exploring Langale Part 2. How whenever I leave a municipality that I've spent for most people in terms of perception of time, a short amount, just a short stay in the location. I've continuously felt like it's the end of an era for me, the end of a chapter in my life that I've you know what, I'll talk about it more in a few minutes. Never an inviting sign. And especially something like this. Frightening. Well, this is greenwashing if I've ever seen it. So as I was saying, whenever I move into an area and I stay there for really even so much as a week in terms of time length, when I begin integrating myself into the communal setting and investigating the societal structuring of the municipality, I feel personally connected to it because it becomes my home. I've had no permanent, foreseeably permanent living space for the last 2 years. And it's always a bittersweet farewell. To any place I've left. Because I always feel like, well, emotionally, my essence, or a part of who I was metaphysically, is still there. That there's unresolved things for me. Well, in terms of just investigating, there always is. I'm on a time limit. Not just in terms of footage, what I showcase online, but weather-wise. Like, whenever I...
No, different.
For the last 2 years, whenever the colder seasons have started creeping closer, because of my knowledge to our innate subconscious fear of death, but in regards consciously to me wanting to live. And always, though knowing that I most likely will survive whatever's thrown at me, not knowing how close to fatality I might come. And that's what scares me. It's what consciously scares me, not that I'm risking death. I've risked potential death my whole life, and especially in recent times. I have taken risks on death. I have no problem taking a risk on my own demise, of the potentiality of it. I don't fear that. I'm not consciously petrified of that at all. But what unsettles me is that when I'm put into a situation, or I know what certain scenarios might be coming my way if I go through with something, I'm never able to... Now, this is just an obvious existential statement. I'm never able to accurately, in some way, assess how close I could potentially come to it. Like, those of the homeless populace know this feeling. Not that feeling, but specifically in regards to not knowing. For the winter time, for colder seasons, the last 2 years, when I've been outside, I'm in tune neurologically to that temperature change. I feel it, and I know that most homeless feel it too. That creeping cold. They see the leaves changing. It is beautiful, but it's also somewhat a little sinister for those living within this regions like this of the globe, where, well, the different colorations of the leaves change closer to autumn and begin to fall. It's beautiful and sinister at the same time. Because now, especially with travel, the rest of my journey that I'm about to undertake, especially this time of year, I've got a little sword hanging over my head on a rope. And it's the feeling of it getting ever so closer to dropping on my cranium, impaling me. It's like, Cam, get inside, hurry up, move it, cold's coming, hypothermia, get going, or it's gonna... And that's not just for me. I know various other homeless feel that all across the world, in regions such as where they are affected by the colder temperatures. It's like a ticking time bomb. So, to address what I wanted to in the last video, in regards to Leviz, the mission I'd undertaken to infiltrate a private corporation and showcase their antics to the online world if possible. That didn't transpire right now, and it's not going to transpire for a long while, but it will at some point. I will attempt it. What do I mean? Well, here's the alterations to my travel plans. I am heading north out of Quebec and into the Labrador territory of Newfoundland and Labrador. Within the next week or so. Making my way up there. I'm going to settle in Labrador City for this winter. See what employment prospects I can find up there, and housing. Then, given my finances, what they'll be at, whatever they're at, next year, come hopefully summertime, it's off to trying to find a way to Iqaluit, Nunavut, by plane or boat. And then I will spend whatever amount of time I do in the territorial capital of Nunavut. And then, when all is said and done, I am going to, as quickly as I can and as ethically as I can, in terms of vehicle transport used, make my way back down through Quebec, specifically back to this region. And specifically, the first stop I will be going back to, or having my sights focused on, is Leviz. And whether it's 3 years from now, 4 years from now, 5 years from now, or even 2 years from now, that is when I will be undertaking my infiltration of that company. I am going through with that before making my way back to Toronto, Ontario. As well as, after being done in Leviz, when that time comes, I also have unfinished investigations and attempts at aiding the community of St. Paul de Montmagny. I have unfinished business there. I still have a bone to pick with the Talbot family in terms of displaying their corruption to the world and getting the villagers to just notice it further and do something more than what they've done about it. Not in any violent manner, not in any, hopefully, any amount of municipal government manner, because those methods will both fail. Just something. So, within the next 3 to 4 years, I'm going back to the Viz, to that company. And then I'm going back to Appalachia, to the village of St. Paul de Montmagny. And then, on the way back, I'll probably be going through Drummondville, Victoriaville, St. Hyacinthe, Longueuil, Montreal, Laval, Gatineau, Ottawa. I'll be going all the way back. Maybe I'll do one video for each municipality I return to, just a returning series, just returning to this municipality. We'll see. So, that's the plans for the future right now. It'll all go awry in some way, and then I'll revise it. But that's just my motivating source right now. Alright. Do 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 do. Time is an illusion that helps things make sense, 'cause we are always living in the present tense. It seems so unforgiving when a good thing ends. But you and I will always be back then. You and I will always be back then. Singing will happen, happening happened. Will happen, happening happened, and will happen again and again. 'Cause you and I will always be back then. You and I will always be back then. If there was some amazing force outside of time to take us back to where we were, I'd hang each moment up like pictures on the wall inside a billion tiny frames, so that we could see it all again. And it would look like will happen, happening happened. Will happen, happening happened, and will happen again and again. 'Cause you and I will always be back then. Singing will happen, happening happened. Will happen, happening happened, and oh look, there we are, again and again. 'Cause you and I will always be back then. You and I will always be back then. You and I will always be back then. And so you and I will always be best friends. Time Adventure by Rebecca Sugar. Bonsoir.